the need to someone in his under arrest and have that knee held there despite the pleas from the arrested individual and with 3 other officers around and no intervention. I discussed the issue with Chief Rock earlier this morning, and we were both remarking on one individual, but to stand there with the other officers and not take any action. You know, here in Township Committee, we talk about what the obligation of government is and making sure that we tread lightly on individual rights. And to me, it's just a reminder that there's no greater intrusion on individual rights than the taking of life. And there's a reason folks should be angry about what happened there. And in discussions with the chief, we talk about the protocols that are in place here in New Jersey, the training that our police officers go through. That's not to say that it could never happen here in New Jersey or in Somerset County or here in Bedminster. But the training is in place and the police officers remain disciplined and they know when to intervene at appropriate times. Those are my comments on that matter. We have 2 minutes to approve the May 18, 2020 regular Township Committee meeting and the May 18, 2020 closed session meeting. Are there any comments or questions to those meeting minutes that have not otherwise been provided to Ms. Sullivan? If not, may we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Permits and raffles. So we're going to divide permits and raffles into 2, and we're going to handle the first easy one right off the bat. Raffle permit for an off-premise 50/50 cash raffle to benefit Bedminster charities to be held at River Road Park on Saturday, October 24, 2020 at 5:00 p.m. That sounds like a familiar permit that we've issued before. Ms. Sullivan?
And we hope we're able to have it. The Fall Fest Committee, we're going to have a 50/50 cash raffle. We're going to be selling tickets throughout the year. The drawing will be on October 24th. If we have Fall Fest, it'll be at Fall Fest. If for some reason we don't have Fall Fest, the drawing will still be held on the 24th at River Road Park at 5:00. So.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments regarding that permit? If not, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second.
Oh, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we go to special use permits. And as everyone on Township Committee and Ms. Sullivan and Paul Ferraro are all familiar with, several weeks ago, I had asked the Township Committee and our various boards and commissions and other committees to think about reopening and what could we do to facilitate the reopening of our Bedminster resident businesses. And so we talked about the idea of outdoor dining and curbside sales and how we could work with the business community. And we talked one thing about having some categories of special use permits that would be available. And Ms. Sullivan said, yeah, we could do that, certainly under the special use permits. And we took that matter to the land use board. And we bounced it around the land use board at 2 separate meetings. And some additional ideas of special use permits came out from those meetings. And our zoning board attorney mentioned, you know, Larry, we could do this as a township-wide special use permit so that we don't have to have folks waiting for a Township Committee to give the stamp of approval or denial of a special use permit. So if we could craft these special use permits specifically and have a review on professional engineering, fire, health, safety issues, that this is something that we could expedite the process. So we came up with a total of 4 special use permits. So the special use permits, so the first one would allow for outdoor seating for food services, and this would be for restaurants and any other food establishment in Bedminster. 2 is temporary signage, and the signage is pretty much divided into 2 different categories. One is the temporary signs that you would put up, banners and flags. Hey, we're open, come back, remember us. And then the other system of signage was a color-coded sign or series of signs that actually Janine Dillion, who is our secretary for the land use board, said she had noticed at a shopping center in Bernardsville. And it was essentially a red, yellow, green, identifying open, closed, open, but only for curbside or limited. And she thought that was a great idea, that if we could implement township wide and we could just set it up, have the signs ready to go, and the businesses could take advantage of it, and it'd be something that'd be uniform across the town and hopefully uniform across other areas as well. So that's the temporary signage. The third one is outdoor displays and sidewalk sales, and also allowing certain outdoor transactions. So right now, Bedminster, you would need to come in to the Township Committee for a special use permit to have outdoor displays and sidewalk sales. Or you would have to have that built into your land use planning board approval or your site plan approval. So we thought that with the governor's emphasis on curbside pickup, doing some remote transactions, that this would be a way of allowing businesses to once again display their wares, perhaps do some outdoor sales like a sidewalk sale analogous to outdoor dining, and to set up registers, and if they needed to run inside and get additional inventory, that they could do so in a way that maintains the social distancing and virus protective measures that we were already so accustomed to at this point. The fourth one is curbside pickup. So just as it is being promoted by the governor, that this is certainly allowed today, that if there's curbside pickup, you can order ahead, even at non-essential retail, show up at the store or other establishment, get your material that you just purchased and head out. Well, rather than having this happen haphazardly across the township, the idea for curbside pickup is, okay, we can allocate parking spaces and drive aisles for these activities. And this is something that would normally, right now you're taking parking away, maybe taking a drive aisle away. This is something that would really run afoul of site plan approval. So by doing this as special use permit, it would facilitate the businesses and perhaps even shopping centers working together with their tenants to identify specified curbside pickup and allocate parking spaces for those activities. Now, under all these special use permits, it would require review and approval by the Bedminster professionals. So that would be Paul Ferraro from engineering, Steve Dill, our fire safety officer, and depending upon if it required additional guidance, well, we would leave that to Paul in his role as township engineer to go identify if he needed to talk to someone from traffic or needed to talk to another expert. So the specific language for special use permit, let's see, that's a signage one, outdoor dining. So the conditions for the special use permit that we've drafted right now. Description of activity to permit Bedminster residents and to permit Bedminster restaurants and food establishments to provide services via outdoor seating. And conditions, those restaurants and food services who wish to participate must submit a plan for review by all appropriate township officials with final approval by the township engineer. And it would have the $200 fee that is typically associated with individual special use permits. So for someone to take advantage of this special use permit, they have to submit a plan. It would go to, I presume, to Judy. Judy would then forward it to Paul. Paul would go through the review. If it met with Paul's approval, it was, and Steve Dill from Fire and Safety. And it would, Paul, I presume you would write a letter or an email saying approved, ready to go, and would not require any further involvement by the Township Committee. This would be, I don't want to say not completely ministerial, because obviously there's engineering review and safety concerns that need to be addressed. But that's the concept for the food permit, or the outdoor dining permit. So a couple of things that we want to talk about is that these are temporary. These are temporary special use permits, and it's up to the Township Committee if we decide to proceed with this on the timing, if the $200 fee is appropriate, or if these conditions that I've laid out, are they too onerous or are they too permissive? So I'd rather sort of handle them one by one, because each one I think presents some unique issues. And so Paul, if we could get you unmuted. There you are. So Paul, why don't you just sort of, we had one example with Delicious Heights. And so we do know that the Pluckerman Inn is ready to go. I think they're more than ready to go. I think they've already submitted an application. So if you can just sort of walk us through what your review would be.
Sure, and I don't recall if it was at the Township Committee or the Planning Board where we discussed the Delicious Heights application. But similarly with the Pluckerman Inn, the first thing I'll look at is to make sure we have adequate vehicular access around the site. That's important. We have to be able to make sure that vehicles can get in and out, and the customers can get in and out of the eating areas without any major issues. Delicious Heights, we had some discussion. I think they've got it outlined fairly well, and I briefly looked at the one from Pluckerman Inn. I think theirs hits that target as well. They're going to need some signage at their driveway to make sure they direct people to Crossroads Drive because they're going to be blocking off the entrance from 202, 206. I don't think that's a major issue at all. I think some temporary directional signage there should solve that problem. There's other elements of it, such as the spacing of tables and those sorts of things. Frankly, that's something that I would defer to the health department based on whatever guidance we get from the state. The state says the tables have to be 6 feet apart, or 10 feet apart, or 12 feet, whatever it is. I would defer to the health department to confirm that they meet those standards, as well as anything else that the health department needs to be aware of.
Now, we did receive comments from the health department earlier today, and I did forward them, Paul, to you.
I did see those. I'm not sure that they were from the health department or the Board of Health.
I'm sorry, it was from the Board of Health. You're right.
And
I am supposed to talk, I was supposed to talk to the health department today, but that got delayed. So that I'll have that conversation with them tomorrow.
And I understand the comments from the health department. I can kind of keep an eye on those as these applications come in and be aware of those things, because there were some legitimate concerns in there about how people get in and around and the spacing and that sort of thing. But it would be my opinion that I would defer to the health department rather than the Board of Health, because they would be getting directives from the state as to what the proper spacing would be. Not to take anything away from anybody on our Board of Health, but they're really citizen advisors to the board. It's the professionals at the health department that I would really lean to. Just like as it relates to the probably the last issue in my mind, and that's fire safety. And I would rely on Steve Dill. He's going to look at that. He's going to make those determinations.
So the only guidance we have from the governor's office came out earlier this afternoon, which is Governor Murphy announces New Jersey to enter stage 2 of restart and recovery on June 15th. And stage 2, outdoor dining is identified as commencing on June 15th with adherence to safeguarding and modification guidelines. Those guidelines have not yet been issued. So that's something that, as these applications come through, and so we've got Delicious Heights, we have the Pluckerman Inn, and, someone told me that Rocco's Pizzeria was already doing it. So Judy, that may be something we need to talk to them about. That's great, but they need to get approval before they proceed. As well with, and it could be the delis, it could be the bagel places, it could be the pizza places. This special use permit is meant to be township wide. So Paul, you sort of ran quickly through the issues or concerns you would be looking for. And I presume that if you had concerns, there'd be a back and forth with the applicant, but we would not need to go back to the Township Committee for any further indication. You would sort of treat this as a general permit, and as long as they met your criteria and addressed your concerns, you'd be ready to go.
And one thing I would add to that, if for example, and I frankly can't see this happening, but if it does that we can't come to resolution on a specific issue, I would allow them to come back to the Township Committee and make their specific case on an item. I really don't see that happening, but you guys would be the final decision makers in that event.
Right. I mean, not to bring my, my professional, life in, but as, sort of Paul would treat this as a general permit. That doesn't mean you can't apply for an individual permit, but you can certainly, if you can meet the criteria for a general permit, then you're good to go.
Right.
And so you really would become the gatekeeper, and this should be, I'm going to imagine, you already know what you're looking for. You know the site, all the sites in Bedminster, so you know the concerns that would need to be addressed, and develop a protocol for that review.
From a process standpoint, I think it's most efficient if the applicant submits something by email, like Pluckerman Inn did today. I can respond by email, copy everybody as necessary on that response, just to turn these things around pretty quickly, because I would do it when they come in. I'm not going to wait to my normal Thursday office hours in Bedminster, but I'll turn them around as quickly as they come in.
Great, because I know here in Bedminster, we have a number of folks who are anxious for outdoor dining, and if the governor is giving it the green light on June 15th, we want to make sure that our businesses are ready to go on June 15th, as I would imagine most of the Township Committee is nodding their head because they want to get to a restaurant quickly too. So with that, let's take a quick poll of the Township Committee. Is this a special use permit that you endorse, and you agree with the conditions, including the $200 fee associated with each applicant? Let's start with Mr. Stevenson.
Very good. I had mentioned it last meeting, just in concept, certainly something I'm fully behind. I think anything we can do to help the rest, the businesses in town, the citizens of the town to get to the businesses. And yes, I don't know where I'm falling down on the $200 quite yet. I know that part of this is relief to the businesses, and I would feel a little remiss to quote tack onto that. But I don't know what's the $200 is for. If it's to go to help offset Paul's review, certainly it makes sense. So I would just need to know a little bit more about what the 200 is being used for.
So Judy, that is the fee that we currently have for all special use permits. So whether it's someone putting up a sign for 2 or 3 weeks, or as we did last year, I believe with Trattoria Mediterranea, when they had the outdoor seating for a year or something along those lines.
Right. The $200 is more for a special use permit that's got some significance to it. A sign permit doesn't require the $200 fee. There's a smaller sign permit fee. I think it's, Robin Ray can probably tell me, it's more, I think in the $25 to $30 range. But, the larger permits, which do require professionals to review it, like outdoor seating, where they have to show a map and they have to show a plan and give some additional details. I think the $200 might be appropriate to offset the cost of the professionals. The other things, as far as curbside pickup, the temporary signage, other than where they're going to put it, outdoor displays and things, they really going to require a lot of time.
We're going to get to those. We're going to get to those.
All right,
Right
sorry.
now, let's stick with the outdoor dining.
Yeah, I think the $200 might be appropriate.
Okay. I mean, so long as the 200 is intended to compensate the municipality for Paul's review, and so it's a net sum neutral thing for us, I can get behind that. I just want to make sure that we're not hitting the very folks that we're looking to help here in the wall.
If I could just weigh in on that for 1 second, what I might suggest that if somebody comes in for 2 or 3 of these special use permits, that there only be the one fee.
Hey, you're all jumping ahead. All of you.
I'm done, Mayor. I support it.
And because she's on mute, we'll go to Committeewoman Aresti next.
Hi, everybody. I definitely agree with having these temporary permits. My thought, though, immediately, since it's a temporary thing, is that we do make it less than $200. If it was a permanent thing, then I'd say that would be fine. But just as another nice thing we can do for the community, if there's any leeway we have, any cushion that we can take something off that 200 just to show our businesses that we're in it with them.
Well, that actually raises the issue is that special use permits are less than a year. So by very definition, these are temporary permits. These are temporary approvals. If they require anything further, they would have to come in for a second. But after that, they would have to go before the planning board for further approvals. For
Okay.
something that's permanent.
Yeah, there's a 1-year renewal for $25, but after that, they go to the land use board.
So right now, on the dates of the activity, we've got start TBD and the timing TBD. So timing, I would defer to, that would probably be something that Paul would need to do in his review. But the dates of activity. So here we are in June. And is this something that we want to carry to June of 2021? Or is this something that we're looking to see for the end of the year, hopefully when the COVID crisis passes?
Well, my thought with something like that is it's going to get cold in the winter. So there's going to be a time when customers aren't going to want to sit outside anyway. Unless somebody like a Pluck 'em Inn or Delicious Heights brings in those heaters, which is another whole thing to talk about.
And that's what I was going to say. If as Larry said, if we're talking about general permits, they should have general conditions and general common elements. And I was just writing myself some notes. No exterior lighting, no exterior loudspeakers or music, no heaters. That kind of ends the outdoor dining when the season ends. Now, if somebody wants to come in and extend it, they can come in, but it requires a little more information and I think a more detailed review by the Township Committee if that were the case.
And then that would go to an individual permit.
Yes.
So my thought is to make the dates of activity and just give it to the end of the year, 12/31/2020. And, we can always revisit this again in January if the need arises. And if someone does want to put out heaters, then let them come in for the individual permit. Ms. Fernandez.
Well, I absolutely support a special permit for businesses to be able to open as soon as possible, as long as they meet the guidelines. I just have a question. So is this special use permit, this general one with the requirements that we're talking about right now, is that for just outdoor dining or is that for sidewalk sales? I mean, is it for like a general one that any business would use, or is it just specifically for outdoor dining?
So this special use permit, this one right here, is for outdoor dining.
Okay.
We have got 3 other special use permits that are faster, and those are for the curbside pickup, the sidewalk sales and outdoor displays, and the signage.
Okay, very good.
This one is just a one-off for dining.
Okay, so yes, 100% I support it.
Okay. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just echoing the comments of my colleagues, I absolutely support it. These are extraordinary times. As long as the $200 reflects our actual costs, because obviously we don't need to be hitting our business owners for anything more than just covering our costs. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, Mayor, but I want to echo Mr. Ferrer's comments, which are, I think it should be a one and done or a cap fee. So if you pay $200 the first time, then if you come in for additional ones, because you can imagine somebody doing outdoor seating or outdoor dining and then signage, they should only pay the expense one time. So let's either divide it evenly among the 4 or make a cap that you pay once and then you're done. You can apply for 1, 2, 3, or 4 permits, whatever your case may be.
So here's my thoughts. My thought is to make the dates of activity to 12/31/2020 and to leave the $200 fee in for the outdoor dining. And then for the other special use permits, which we'll get into, is that a fee may not be, because it would probably be rather something that's relatively quick from Paul's perspective.
The only comment or exception I might make to that is for the curbside pickup where you might be taking parking stalls and aisles away.
Okay.
That's in a different category, I think.
And we'll put that over there. Okay, so before we get into this, we do have some reps from the Pluckman Inn on this call. And so just real quickly, let's open it up for comments from the applicant. So from Gloria and Tal, if you have any type of reaction to our discussion.
Hi, I guess I'm not muted anymore.
You're free to go.
It's good to be here. So no comments. I think this process makes sense. As you can imagine, we're trying to generate as much revenue as we can these days, and being able to have those tables available for outdoor dining, and I'm sure the residents are dying to come out and eat outside in a restaurant. So whatever the Township Committee can do to help that process, it seems like you're all committed to do that. That's greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Ms. LaGrassa. Anything
I think he said it very well. Thank you very much
Okay.
for your interest and help.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with that, so this is a special use permit to permit Bedminster restaurants and food establishments to provide services via outdoor seating. The conditions, restaurants and food services who wish to participate must submit a plan for review by all appropriate township officials with final approval by township engineer, $200 fee, dates of activity to 12/31/2020. With that, we have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, thank you.
Write in the date.
How quickly can we get it? Can we get it 12:01 a.m. on June 15th?
Well, the permit can be issued tomorrow. I mean, Paul, as soon as Paul's fine with it, he can say, you're good. And then they just got to comply with the governor's directive.
There you go. As Tal said, I think our residents will be lining up to enjoy some outdoor dining. Look forward to it.
I tend to agree with that statement.
Okay, and Judy, I take it that I'll sign right here where it says township. Oh, we did it to the township. So, you know, I'll just put that over there. Judy can tell me how to take care of those. Okay, so the other 3. So this is while they're less complicated than the outdoor dining. So this is the second most complicated, as Paul said. So this would permit Bedminster businesses and shopping centers to use existing drive aisles and/or parking spaces as designated areas for curbside pickup. The participating businesses, these are the conditions that they're currently drafted, must submit a plan for review by township officials with final approval by township engineer, $200 fee required. So once again, this is shopping center or an individual business saying, we want to use the drive aisle or some other parking lane or parking spaces for curbside pickup specifically. And one of the things we discussed at the land use board, this could be someone from the store running out to the parking lot with the, the bag or box or whatever it is. Or it could be someone parking and running to the store to get their box or bag. Or it could be lining up and, as we've seen with other stores, you line up, you open the trunk of your car, someone comes from the store, pops it in, off you go. All great ways to do it, all certainly adhering to social distancing guidance. Question is, by doing this in a constructive manner, just to make sure it doesn't create fire, we're not blocking fire lanes, that we're not creating a hazard by people going through parking lots, perhaps any more than they need to, than they currently do. But obviously people park in parking lots already. So Paul, if you can just quickly run through your concerns, then we can talk about the dates of activity and if a $200 fee is appropriate for this special use permit.
Well, I think the concerns really are the same from a traffic circulation and fire protection perspective as they are for the outdoor dining. You just don't want to block up parking areas and drive aisles so people can't get through, and so there's difficulties with emergency response. I think it just is something that requires some planning, and a plan would need to be submitted. What I would say is that if this is in conjunction with outdoor dining, I absolutely would not have a separate fee for it. But if it's independent of outdoor dining, for example, if one came in for the Hills Village Shopping Center, I'd like to see a fee for that, because that's a fairly large site, and hopefully they would come in with a comprehensive plan for the entire facility.
Yeah, I was going to jump in on that. I mean, it seems like this particular one would be used, if we can forecast it, by Hills Village Shopping Center, where the Fresh Market is, that shopping center. I just want to make sure that we're dealing with the landlords, not necessarily the individual tenants, because there may be an issue between how the landlord wants to run its property and its tenants versus what's permitted by the town. And I has anybody thought about how that's going to work? Is it the landlord that makes the application, or?
What I would do is make sure the landlord signs off on the application, and frankly, I'd prefer if the landlord were the applicant, because then he's got all his tenants in mind.
That's
not
right.
just one individual tenant.
That's right. And if the landlord gets hit, I'm sorry if I spoke over somebody. The landlord, if we assess $200, could spread that amongst the users at the facility and divvy that up to spread the pain. That would even be more palatable for them.
Actually, on the form, there's a place for the applicant to sign, and there's a place for the property owner to sign. So.
Okay.
Except that the applicant in this case is Bedminster. So as special use permits, we are giving the permit township-wide with just individual applicants coming in. So it doesn't have to come back to us. So it's a little bit of a, we're using the same special use permit form, but it is a little bit of a different process.
So is the thought?
And just to follow up on what Doug was saying is that, in any situation, and this may be something that Paul does is his review, is you take Hill Shopping Center as an example. You don't necessarily want the CVS blocking Starbucks or the ice cream place. So it does, for those shopping centers, it needs to be coordinated and make sure that the property owners are on board. And that's perhaps something that we could designate as part of Paul's review.
Is the idea, Mayor, that we would then, assuming these go through, we pass them, that we would then proactively alert the landlords and the owners of these larger properties that this exists, and sort of let them become aware of it through proactive measures, or are we just going to?
Yes. So actually, when we discussed this at the land use board meeting, last month, during the meeting, Tim Walter texted to, I think, certainly the owner of the Somerset Hill Shopping Center, and right then and there told him about this, the undertaking that the township was looking at, so that if that shopping center, you've got the pharmacy, you've got the Baskin Robbins, you've got Fresh Market, I think there's a dry cleaner in there, and the UPS store.
UPS store.
So that
Very-
you could coordinate, you could have one designated area for curbside pickup that would handle, presumably, the entire shopping center, or have one on the east side and one on the west side. And let that all be subject to Paul's review. So yes, so back to your question, we're a small town. We can probably name on one hand the number of multi-use strip centers and shopping centers that would be applicable. So we've got King's, we've got the Somerset Hills, we've got where Little Pickles is set up, maybe the Quick Check strip that may not even want to take advantage of it. So I think from a shopping center standpoint, there's only a few, but there may be other stores, whether in Pluckman or Bedminster Village, where they may want to say, take some of these parking spaces and make that specifically for curbside pickup. So yes, we can do that outreach directly. Which gets us to the wording of that $200 fee. So $200 fee required if for a shopping center. And if it's an individual store, well, then that may be something that Paul and Steve Dill can address ministerial.
Yeah, I think the idea is just try to keep this in control. And I think if it's just one individual store standing alone, nowhere else, I don't think it's a complicated plan and very difficult to look at, and maybe there's no fee for that. But for a shopping center, I think it's a little more complicated. There's a little more to look at as it relates to the traffic circulation. But
Okay.
if, for example, the Far Hills Pharmacy came in, that's pretty simple to deal with, but that's a lot different than the Somerset Hills Shopping Center.
Right. Okay, so my proposal would be to make dates of activity, once again, through 12/31/2020, the $200 fee required only for a shopping center. Okay.
Or are we saying, or multi-tenanted property?
Okay, Mr. Lawyer, give me some language.
Property with, with more than one uses or more than one occupants, multi-tenanted, whatever you want to do. The point is that the $200 is to offset Paul's costs. He's got to look at those issues and see how one use plays against the other. I get all that. But we just say shopping centers may sound inadvertently punitive to the shopping center owner or restrictive. And I just think the point here is that a site that's got multiple uses requires more coordination.
Okay, here you go. So $200 fee required for shopping center or multi-tenanted property.
Perfect for me. So long as John that's good for John.
Good here.
Beautiful.
So just to put it to a test, let's consider, for example, where Annie's Deli is, Colonial Liquors, a couple other things in there. What happens in that case? Are those separately owned, or is that a multi-tenanted facility?
I would look at the block and lot.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's the property.
Okay.
Well, that's so small that you would drive right up to the building where you're picking your stuff up at anyway.
But the point is, Paul's going to have to determine that what Annie's is doing is not interfering with Colonial Liquors or vice versa, which requires the fee. We want to facilitate business, right? And we also, in the process of doing this, we don't want to impede other businesses. Um, that's at least the thought I drove out of that.
Agreed. Or have people make it up on their own, which means fire lanes and handicap spots get taken away, which obviously neither is acceptable. So let's make sure it's done right.
Good point.
Okay, so I put no fee for single tenanted property, the $200 fee only required for shopping center or multi-tenanted property. Okay. Any further discussion on this one?
Good.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve this special use permit?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, special use permit to permit Bedminster businesses, including retail, personal and professional service establishments, to have outdoor displays, sidewalk sales, and outdoor transactions. The conditions: businesses wishing to participate must submit a plan for review by township officials with final approval by township engineer. $200 fee required. I take it the consensus of the township committee is to get rid of the $200 fee for this special use permit.
That would be my vote.
Same.
Yeah, same here.
And I would see that coming in for the individual tenants in the Hills Village Shopping Center. That wouldn't be a site-wide permit.
All right, they still may need to talk to their neighbors and to their landlord to make sure it's going to be okay, but yes, I agree. Okay, so do we have consensus on getting rid of the $200 fee?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Out it goes. Date of activity through 12/31/2020. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the last one, permit Bedminster businesses, including retail, personal and professional service establishments, for temporary signage that follow attached guidelines. Temporary signage to designate business status during COVID-19 emergency. So that was the first condition. So the temporary signage could say, you know, the sort of red, yellow, green that I'm going to attribute to Janine DeLeon. And then other temporary signage that would typically require a sign permit and review. So that could be the feather flags that, you know, we were back in February about this close to banning in Bedminster. And now we're saying, hey, we understand, put up temporary signage. But let's say, the one thing that I do know that I think needs to be in here is that it still should be subject to review by the township officials and township engineer. Once again, to make sure that when the signs are placed, they are placed safely, they're not blocking any views, they're not in any sight lines or site easements, and that it's essentially, you know, we'll leave it to Paul for review, but if it's a small business, they don't get to put 20 feather flags up in front of their store.
Yeah, the idea here is it's going to stay within the existing ordinance in terms of size, location, and all that. But
Well, that's really to Paul as the reviewer.
Yeah, and I'd like to have a little bit of guidance in that regard. First off, as far as the advertising signs are concerned, I would say no more than one per user. You couldn't have a half a dozen feather flags in front of the site. I just think that's inappropriate and just will make a mess. And then as far as the red, yellow, greens, obviously one per tenant, is one per site, not per site, per retailer.
And Paul, how about inflatables? I think that may take it one step too far.
I'm sorry?
How about inflatables? I think that might take it one step too far.
If you have to plug it in, I don't like it.
Thank you. Well stated.
Okay, so I'm just writing this down. Inflatables. Okay, so I'm just writing this down. No inflatables or electrified signs.
And no lighting.
No lighting.
We still have a few folks who have neon in their windows, but maybe that's not such a big deal right now.
I know Joe Haggerty has been trying to get down the list on those. And
Yeah,
I think he's kind of put that to the side for the short term.
sure.
So I am just copying the language we had in the other ones. Businesses wishing to participate must submit a plan for review by township officials. Final approval by the township engineer. And do we also agree that for this one, waive the $200 fee?
Yes.
Yes, for signage, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so also through 12/31/2020. All right, so with those conditions, we have a motion to approve that special use permit.
So moved.
Second.
Again, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. All right, and I do expect these special use permits to get use from our residents, from our resident businesses. So I thank you all for moving on that. So public comment during these Zoom meetings and the COVID crisis. We are doing one public comment session, and now is that opportunity. So Judy, please open up the Zoom conference.
And Mr. Mayor, before we go there, is there anything else for me?
We'd love to have you stick around for another 3 hours.
I hear my dog calling me.
Thank you, Paul.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Good
Paul.
Good night, Paul. Thank you.
And if anybody wants to raise their hand or put up the little, like the, you see,
Mr. Brown.
where'd he go?
I'm
Here,
off
here.
mute.
There,
You
you're
got it.
unmuted. Okay, Mr. Brown.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So just once again wanted to bring to your attention the speeding situation on Black River Road. Actually, I'm sitting on the front porch. There we are, right there. See that turn right up there? There's another one right back the other way. So it's got a nice S-turn here down at the south end. If you can see right there, there is the solar-powered speed sign that was installed. And I have to say that one, and I'm assuming the one up towards the village as well, has had a positive impact. Folks that are just not paying attention, not realizing that they are speeding, they see it, and believe me, especially I've been working home since March 9th, and this has just kind of been my office. So I see the effect of it a lot. People just, plowing the brakes, just not realizing what they're doing. On the flip side, you get the folks that it's, all right, I took that curve at 45, 50 miles an hour and keep on going. And those are the ones that I really want to, something has got to be done other than this. The passive approach, like I say, helps when people care. When they don't care, it does nothing. Two houses right up this way, there's a 2-year-old and a newborn. A little further on up the way, there's a couple of new families that have moved in that have teenage kids. The village here is turning over. It's getting younger. And I think we're going to start seeing more kids in this area. And, you know, my kids are grown, but still I've got my youngest daughter still lives here. She's not the best driver. She backs out of the driveway on the other side of the house. And literally, I'm praying every time she pulls out that some idiot's not speeding through and going to T-bone her. I've talked to almost every house from here up to the church. Everyone is fed up. My next step is, when socially distancing responsible, I'm putting together a petition. Everyone has said that they were more than willing to sign it, and we are requesting something seriously be done. I still cannot understand from the township engineering why speed bumps cannot be installed here. And that's what everyone that I've spoken with, including the folks on Southfield, know several folks in there as well. They are as fed up as I am. So we're as a village community, we are going to be requesting speed bumps to be installed. Additional police presence, more than welcome. I got to say, there has been a cruiser parked up at the intersection of Southfield the past couple of evenings, but frankly, that does nothing. Mainly, traffic coming from both directions can see the vehicle, slows down well in advance of any implication. Where I've talked with several officers and said, look, feel free to park right there in my barn driveway or in Brian Callahan's driveway right there, and start nailing folks. Get some of these guys that are coming through at 50, 55 miles an hour as I watch them, on the indicator there. And, something has got to be done. We do appreciate the passive approach. Like I say, it helps for the people that are just kind of ignorant to what they're doing. But again, the ones that just don't care. And it's especially bad on the weekends with the Porsche crowd, as I call them, that live on down the road here, and especially the motorcycles, especially the crotch rocket motorcycles. Saturday, it's like a speed zone through here, and we are fed up. So I'm respectfully requesting something be done, but if not in the next meeting, again, I will be showing up with a petition from a lot of residents in this area.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thanks for the time.
So the chief is not here, so we don't have the chief, and perhaps we actually should have kept Paul on a little bit longer, so we could the engineering issue addressed. I believe that in the past we did look at the speed bump issue, and I forget honestly what the rationale was, but I know that there were rationales, including the fact that this is a county road, and also that there were safety concerns with installing speed bumps, so that speed bumps might, while they might slow traffic down, they might actually create accidents and other issues. So that's something that we will, again, Doug, were you the one that was running that investigation when this first came up?
No, I was involved in the speed limit
Oh, up on
signs.
All right, so it's something that we will we'll go back to. We'll go back to the chief to see if his observations and the observations of the police mesh with Mr. Brown's. And
I gotta grab a charger. I'm about to. All right. Well, apologies if I drop off here unintentionally. My battery just died.
All right, so
Just one other question.
and
We
that's
lost
where
her.
we broke off.
And they dropped off.
So one other question, we'll have to wait until he gets gets a new charge. Are there any other comments from the public? Judy, does everyone know to hit the,
So there's a little reaction button that you can put up like a little, you can put up a little thumb like that, or you could put up a little hand like that, just to tell me that you have a comment or question. Okay, I don't see anything, but I'm also looking for Mr. Brown to come back in. I don't see him.
okay. If there are no further public comments, we'll move on with the meeting. What we'll do with the meeting is, what we've done before is rather than remove the COVID issues up to where we are now before we go into subcommittee reports. As I mentioned earlier, we've got, let's see, we were up to the 40 reported cases, 5 fatalities in Bedminster. And we certainly do see that the hospitalizations are down. The number of folks who are in ICU or on ventilators associated with COVID-19 is down. I think the last number I saw across the state was ICU associated with COVID was significantly down, as was ventilator usage. I think the number I'd last seen was, I want to say, somewhere between 15 and 20% of total capacity for ventilators. That was a very good sign. So we really are heading towards a reopening, but, you know, use the term that Gina was using just the other day, which is a responsible reopening, and to do it with sensitivity to the severity of the COVID-19 disease, and that it does remain highly transmissible, but we do need to get the economy going. As many of you know, I, along with Mayor Baldessari and Mayor Mensch from Bridgewater, put together Mayors for Main Street. And we've received, I think, 19 mayors joined us within a week. I think we just received some additional mayors signing on board earlier today. And we've been exchanging best practices, what we're doing. Mary Jane Canoes, Mayor Canoes from Bernardsville, she showed us what Bernardsville adopted last night. They did resolutions, not very dissimilar from what we're doing as special use permits. I shared with the group what we were doing. And Ms. Sullivan, I know you've been in conversation with many of the township administrators and clerks at other municipalities.
Yeah.
And if you just, you know, if I can just throw it to you for a second, just to give a little more color on those discussions and what other towns are working on.
I've had several towns reach out asking, you know, what towns are adopting resolutions to allow businesses to do just what we did tonight. And the suggestion came from myself as well as a few other clerks, you know, special use permit might be the way to go. So I did receive some requests. Can we see your special use form? What kind of questions do you have on it? Some towns, you know, haven't developed necessarily a form for it. So shared our form. I showed some of the things we were adopting tonight. I know Bernardsville specifically, you know, was going to mirror what we were doing. So it's an easier way to do it than going through a full resolution, you know, so.
And
Good sharing in Somerset County.
These, you know, one of the things that we've certainly been discussing on the Mayors for Main Street issue is that the mayors and the governing bodies, that we know our towns. We know our towns, we know our businesses. So a reopening strategy that is one size fits all across the state may not be appropriate. And I believe one of the mayors who joined us is actually the mayor of Scotch Plains, who on our biweekly phone call with the governor's office, he followed the mayor of Plainfield. And he was saying, look, there's issues in Plainfield. Their numbers are up, our numbers are down. There are things that we can do for businesses here that they may not be able to implement so easily in Plainfield. So it was another of the sense of, let's not do a one-size-fits-all approach, but let's give a little credence to the governing bodies of all these towns who were frankly more sensitive to both the economic issues as well as the logistics issues from the health and safety standpoint of a reopening. So that's something that we'll be working on. We've actually got another call tomorrow on that issue. And if there's any issues that Township Committee or Ms. Sullivan that you want me to address with the other mayors, please let me know. Shoot me an email and we'll be sure to move forward with that. With that, let's head into monthly report discussions by subcommittee chair and Committeeman Stevenson. You got to go off mute.
I was just testing you. Well done. Good evening, everybody again. Just real quick, DPW, no real cut and dry updates. Work's continuing. John's doing a good job keeping everybody going. Continues to work on Pluckerman Schoolhouse Park.
Is the basketball court done?
I believe that it is. I just need to, I haven't gotten the formal sign off from John, but my understanding was it was supposed to have been done this week. So
I did drive by over the weekend and looks very nice. Looks great.
yeah, I'll follow up with him tomorrow. But my understanding is that that project is at least the courts is done. Just want to report to, I had a historic preservation meeting last week. Nothing exceptional to report. Went very well, very smoothly. Just wanted to throw out a compliment to Wendy Weinstein, who's doing a great job running those meetings. They're moving along well. It's hard because a lot of times people are coming in with their products and they're passing it around the table, and you sort of get a sense of what they want to use. We were able to do some sharing on the, okay, thank you. We did sharing on, by way of the Zoom, so we can all see the applications as they're coming in. It was really good, very well done. And then I was just handed a note by one of my sons to discuss, if I can, please. It's a little bit off of subcommittee updates, but as far as the school and kindergarten registration, I guess the time to register for kindergarten is now, but no one's doing it, or they're severely under registered from years past. So if we just get the word out that registration for kindergarten for next year is currently underway, and please try to get the word out to get the registrations going. I think with everything else going on, that may get lost in the shuffle. But that's all I've got in terms of subcommittee updates. Wendy's doing a super job. The people on that board I've mentioned in the past, very, very well constituted board. Everybody genuinely, has the same goal in mind, and that is to get folks through the system, but to, in a way that serves the interests and preserves the look of these neighborhoods, these historic neighborhoods, and just commend everybody on that board. They're really doing a great job under Wendy's leadership.
Great. Thank you, Doug. Committeewoman Fernandez.
I'm unmuting. Okay. Sure. So I'm excited to announce that we have our blood drive coming up this week, Thursday and Friday. As of this morning, we have 128 people registered to donate blood, which is amazing. But we're Bedminster, and I am very happy that we chose to do 2 days, and I was very confident we would fill up, so we have. So that's great. You got your shirt. Did everybody get their shirt? Okay, so June 4th from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. we have 65 people registered, and June 5th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. we have like 60 people registered, or 62. So so we're in really good shape, and almost 3 lives. They say 3 lives can be saved by every blood donation, so that would be almost a little less than 400 lives. So that's amazing.
And the target was 100.
The target was 100.
And the American Red Cross didn't think we were going to get there.
Yeah, and they were hesitant to do a 2-day, and we wanted to have flexible schedules. So it's very exciting news.
Is that booked up, Gina?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's still 4 slots on Friday if somebody wanted to fill them in. They book more than they can handle, or they can handle it, but they book a little bit more. 50 per day was our goal, but they book a little bit more in case there's cancellations. But we're hoping that we get the full 130 people. So we're at 128. So we have a few more slots. So that's very exciting, and it's all set, and I've spoken with the school every day, and they're all set, and it's moving along. And actually, Philadelphia, where the American Red Cross is handling, the specifics of everything, they actually are shipping out shirts. So they had leftover 130 shirts or something like that from previous blood drive incentives. So they're actually, everybody who donates blood should get a shirt. So that's exciting also.
That's great.
And also just on Fall Fest, not 100% sure what Fall Fest will look like with the impact of COVID-19. Most likely there will be some sort of a virtual component, but for right now we are certain that, from the raffle application, that there will be a 50-50 component for now. So we want to be able to, the Fall Fest group wants to be able to fundraise something for the charities that they support. So, and that's all.
Great. Thank you. Committeewoman Mareski.
Let me get unmuted. Oh, okay, so let's see. While the May 6th Environmental Commission meeting was canceled, the members of the committee will be handing out tree seedlings at our farmers market Saturday, the 6th, from 9 to 1 at River Road Park. These seedlings, if you don't remember, are part of the New Jersey Tree Recovery Campaign that's designed to help our communities replace trees that were damaged or destroyed by Superstorm Sandy. The seedlings are available on a first come, first served basis. They'll come with instructions on how to store, care for, and plant. These guides should help our residents choose the right place on their property to plant a tree while keeping in mind the tree's full-grown size in the future. There will be several varieties available.
Right.
And thank you to Robin for helping with setting up this information to get out to everybody. There's not much else going on with TC, so Wednesday's meeting has been canceled. The next meeting is July 1st, and maybe we'll have something going on then. Jacobus Vanderveer, we held a Zoom meeting on May 20th. Some of the board members volunteered to meet on May 21st and 23rd to set up the Field of Honor. So as a brief reminder, the Field of Honor program is a part of a national movement that started out as a commemoration of the lives lost on September 11th. But the concept has grown, and communities like ours are using Field of Honor tributes to raise money and awareness for a growing array of causes, such as being done this year with our JVH. JVH has dedicated this year's Field of Honor to the memory of our Bedminster Police Sergeant Tariq Patterson. So there's still plenty of time, so visit the new JVH site. You guys got to see the new website. It's amazing, at jvanderveerhouse.org, and you can either sponsor or purchase a flag. The sponsorship is $40. You don't get the flag, but that's okay, or purchase the flag for $60. And then you can pick up a brochure if you need some more information at Town Hall, or like I said, go to the JVH website. And that's what I have for you today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the flags are already up and they look great as usual. So it's always good to see the flags up there flying on 206. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. I would say it's hard to follow Mr. Stevenson, but now you made me follow everybody, and these guys have some phenomenal news. Congratulations, Renee. Congratulations, Gina. That's awesome. A couple quick items, not as exciting. We did have a rec meeting between our last meeting and now. Our draft survey has been compiled, working with Gina and Robin on that. It will be finalized and hopefully uploaded to an online survey tool within the next week or so, and then we'll get it out. As you saw the government's announcements, and Mayor, you mentioned you mentioned today about last Friday, summer camp is on. So now we're waiting for the guidance from the state. We're obviously soliciting guidance from our own Board of Health, and suffice it to say, our own Robin Ray will be very busy over the next month. We
And
also,
just a reminder, that's a July 6th start, correct?
July 6th start, that is correct. We also discussed what rec could sponsor as a socially distanced program. For example, maybe we do a drive-in movie night at River Road Park or something like that. So we're trying to think about some creative alternatives to engage people in rec activities, but still being socially distant. So more to follow. Board of Health, we had the Lamington Farms application was heard at the last meeting. The application in summary is taking 3 existing lots, turning them into 9. They received Board of Health approval on the soil logs, but for all but one of those lots. Next step is for them to appear in front of the Land Use Board on June 11th. We've also asked for guidance for a variety of things, obviously outdoor dining, the special use permits we discussed earlier this evening, the library in terms of their relaunch and reopening, what they should be considering, obviously guidance around summer camp as well. So that stuff is starting to trickle in. And then just to mention, Board of Ed had a meeting a week and a half ago. The school has officially joined the Morris County Co-op, which is good news. Now that summer camp is on, we've got to figure out and coordinate with them how to get that parking lot repaved between now and July 6th. So we're looking to do that coordination work. So more to follow on that at the next meeting. And that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'll just mention, Colin and I did participate in the last library board meeting. There was some conflicting information that came out of Trenton several weeks ago. I was advised by the governor's office that curbside pickup at libraries was fine. Apparently, they had a change of heart on that and told folks at the New Jersey Library Association that curbside pickup was not fine, which is interesting because the county library had implemented a form of curbside pickup at the Bridgewater County branch. So there seems to be a whole lot of, let's put it this way, not great communication from the state on what libraries can be doing and should be doing. So hopefully with the phase 2 reopening, we are now past that point and that we can certainly have curbside pickup or head to the direction of having curbside pickup at the libraries and perhaps eventually to a reopening of the physical plant itself. So more to come on that. Land Use Board, as Colin mentioned, that application for Bedminster Farms will be coming in June 11th. And I also believe, Colin, do you remember when the Relocate application is?
That's this Thursday.
That's this Thursday?
Yeah.
So Relocate, which I don't necessarily know what that name means, but it is the blue buildings on Main Street, the Desiderio site, and those 2 smaller blue buildings. So that is a Board of Adjustment matter. There's an application, I do believe, Doug, you probably remember those guys appearing at the HPC, I think earlier in the year. So there's, I think their plan is to take maybe both those small buildings down and expand the larger blue building where Desiderios was located. That's something that will be heard once again by the Board of Adjustment. Colin and I are not eligible to participate, but I think everyone will be a little interested in seeing what's going on that section of Main Street. And Saturday, farmers market starts. So there's been a lot of work by a lot of people. Robin Ray, Mimi Jacobs, the entire Farmers Market Advisory Committee, scrutinizing the applications. It has not been a cakewalk for some of these applications. Once again, the committee does a great job of curating and making sure that the folks who are utilizing or taking advantage or submitting to be eligible to participate in the farmers market are consistent, that we're not overloading one type of product where it doesn't become effective for the others to participate. So this is a little bit of, management of that issue, but I think it's going to be great. We have music. So we're going to have socially distancing appropriate music from these two guys. So they'll be playing, but at the same time, we'll be monitoring the circulation and traffic of folks coming into the market area to buy their produce, to pick up food. There will be no eating within the market itself, but we've got a very large park that if folks want to, walk around, find an appropriate spot that works for them, where they are once again adhering to social distance guidelines. Hopefully we get some good weather. I saw some early indications of thunderstorms. Remember last year we did not have a rain day at all. So it's hoping for good weather to continue in 2020. Just as we talked about, using all the township committees and boards to think about reopening, similar with the farmers market, to the extent that we can use the farmers market as a venue for folks to display and remind folks that these Bedminster businesses are back and ready for action. Colin, I know you've already reached out to Designer Appliances. Not sure have they lined up a date to participate, or?
I don't think we have a firm date back from yet, but they know what we're looking for, and they're interested in participating.
So that they could show up, they could show off their display, not necessarily use it to as a sales point. I mean, that's really sort of up to them. But this would apply really, frankly, I think, to any Bedminster business that needs to come out there and remind folks that they're still around, that, we have, several hundred people going through the farmers market on a day. If we can help get these businesses going, let's take advantage of everything that we have here in Bedminster. Colin, there is one thing I want to mention. Let me see if I can work this.
Keep going.
Is that working?
No, keep going. There you go.
There it is. All right. Colin, what's that big thing on the wall?
That is a 75-inch HD monitor, and it looks awesome.
Don't tell my husband.
It's bolted to the wall.
Okay.
So while we're on, we'll go back to your subcommittee on the tech side. So what is that? And why is it there? And Judy, if you want to chime in, we can then transition into.
This is a different, I don't speak this language. This is all Colin.
Okay.
We wanted to be able to support both, obviously, folks who attend meetings, township committee meetings, land use board meetings, as well as any of the subcommittee meetings, as well as the court. So that monitor, as well as a monitor that's sitting on the dais, will now be able to project high definition input from a variety of sources. For example, if you're presenting a land use board meeting, there's a jack right on the dais right now. You plug in there, plug your PC in, and you can project to both screens. That screen, by the way, can be pulled out from the wall and then turned so the audience has a good view of whatever's being presented. That was always one of the problems. Sitting in the audience, you're craning your neck, you really can't see much. We've tried to solve that problem. So it's a good way now to be able to get our audience involved. We could also use it for Zoom meetings if we want to include people who are both within the building as well as outside. They could come on the screen now and present and talk to us. So I think it's another way we're kind of moving our facilities into the 21st century. Judy, let me know if I've missed anything.
And Judy, how's this going to work for court?
So there's a small monitor on the dais right in front of where the mayor is sitting that is similar to the monitor that's on the wall.
Other way.
It was that monitor right there. So that is, the judge is, let's just say, looking at a video of a police arrest. And maybe she would like to look at it privately and not have it up on the screen for the full courtroom to see. She may do so. So that's a nice added option. The court has actually been doing Zoom meetings every Tuesday, and the court staff and the judge have been moving the court docket along. They've been scheduling different cases for different times throughout the morning, and then the attorneys log in and they have their case right on the Zoom. So this will facilitate that a little better. The nice part is half the money for the project is coming from leftover court capital ordinance from last year, and grant money or communications grant money that we also had left over. So this is no new money being put towards this. This is leftover money. So it's nice.
And also meets obviously the requirements of the court system itself, because the judge was not allowed to step off the dais, so she can maintain her position on the dais, look at the screen, look at it privately, the smaller screen. And as well as we had problems in the past where you'd come with a laptop, the police are trying to play a DVD, it's not working. So I think we've addressed a multitude of problems and issues by installing this, and we've done relatively inexpensively.
Right.
Okay, Judy, let's just continue with you on administrator's report.
On my report, I wanted to, before I talk about the budget, I wanted to ask a question. The Public Works Department is back. They're working social distancing and taking their temperature every morning, as is the police department taking their temperature every morning. The staff here in the municipal offices, we take our temperature every morning, those of us that are coming in, but we still have a staggered staff. Not everyone is coming in every day. When we're in a common area, we wear masks. If we're at the copy machine or at the postage meter, or we're out in the common areas, we wear masks. If we're in our office, we might take our mask off. But again, not everyone is in every day. I'm getting a lot of questions from the employees, not that we're ready to be open for the public yet, but when can we come back and start, they're working from home, but can't do everything from home. So I'm proposing, by still practicing the social distancing, taking temperatures, what I just said as far as, common areas, to come back to work next Monday, June 8th, back to a more normal schedule for the staff. Looking for any comments or concerns from all of you.
Can I just ask how many staff? Are there less than 25 staff that would be working at one time?
If everyone was here at one time, about 15.
Yeah, so I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, if everybody's here, we're about 15 people.
Yeah, I have the same concern. Just make sure that we're consistent with what Trenton is dictating for the time being.
Yeah, I got guidelines today from Mike Amorosa at the county, and the mayor shared it as well, with some specific guidelines of, how to manage the office. As far as opening for the public, we don't have a date for that yet, but John Mance has ordered plexiglass to put up at our counters. It's back ordered, I believe, a little bit right now. And we'll have, how to deal with the public, with some signage on the floor, where to stand, where to sit, where to be, when to be called, that kind of thing. We're not quite there yet with that plan, but this would be just for the employees coming back inside the building. So if you're all okay with that, I'd like to roll that out to the employees this week. If there's an employee or two that have other health issues that are a concern, most of them have given me doctor notes. I would ask for just confirmation of that. If there's one or two employees that still have issues, we can address that. But for the most part, I think the employees can come back.
If I could just make a suggestion that, Judy, perhaps if you and Gina have a conversation with the HR consultant and just
Okay.
talk about,
Roll that out.
yeah, to roll that out and how to announce it, and if there's any specific guidance that may push you one way or the other about staggering.
No, I agree.
Staggering
Absolutely.
times, staggering lunch breaks.
Yeah, I don't think we're using the lunchroom, I don't want people having lunch together. So we need to set some, get it on a piece of paper and get it out to the employees.
So Gina, are you okay with doing that with Judy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Now, my other part of my report is supposed to be a short presentation about the budget. I will say, Bud Jones is here with us tonight, our auditor, who has been significantly involved with the preparation of the budget, as have all of you. I've shared with you my presentation, which I could more than happy to go through tonight. But an idea I have, since Bud is here with us, I have to say we were very careful in putting our budget together this year, being very cognizant of the whole COVID-19 emergency. And we delayed introducing our budget to review and make sure that we were trying to think of all the issues at hand. We ended up bringing it in at a 0.64% above last year for the amount to be raised by taxation, which is about half of where we originally started. I spoke with the tax collector today, and as far as the second quarter taxes that were due today, June 1st, we did extend it to today, June 1st. Property taxes are currently at 97.01% collection rate. And the sewer service area, sewer taxes, which are also due June 1st, but their grace period actually goes till June 10th, is currently at 52.76%. So sewer utility not quite as good.
Judy, can you, is there, just for perspective, so 97% collection on
Property taxes.
or property taxes, how does that compare to prior years?
So Debbie Stern did a bank reconciliation, I think on Friday, and saw that we were maybe about $150,000 less in our total funding available as of this time last year, which isn't bad. You know, we're very, very close. My comment might be, since we do have Bud Jones with us tonight, maybe are there any questions that you might have for him regarding, you know, we're okay for that May 1st, June 1st now collection rate for the second quarter. It's the August 1st collection date that might be the issue, and some of the options that we're looking at. Any questions to Bud as to how those might come into play, or what other towns are doing? Or if you want to hear me run through the budget, I certainly can. But
Well, I'm just curious if you know from other municipalities about their collection rates as well for second quarter.
you're still muted.
I just unmuted, thank you. They're all doing pretty well so far. It hasn't been an issue. Some towns that instituted the extended grace period saw the collections coming in as if that extended grace period didn't exist. And I think a number of places did with the larger mortgage servicing companies and banks. So far so good. And I don't think too many people were concerned about the second quarter anyway, with there being more of a concern about the third quarter taxes.
Right.
And getting estimated tax bills out on a timely basis so that the collections could start on August 1st or thereabouts and be timely. Cash flow, as I'm sure you're aware, is at its lowest points in June and July of each year for a calendar year governing municipality. So it's important to try and collect those funds as soon as possible. What we're looking at, you have the usual avenues available should collections not come in. Tax anticipation notes, which is completely a cash flow debt issue, which they're due 120 days after year end. Should the need arise for emergency appropriations because of unexpected expenses, that's a vehicle that's still available to the town.
But I have a question about tax anticipation notes.
Mm-hmm.
Like a bond anticipation notes that goes out to bid. On anticipation note, we didn't go out to bid. We actually are funding it ourselves. Can we do that with a tax anticipation note, or will we have to put that out to bid?
I don't think you could do that with a tax anticipation note because you'd be then saying you already have the cash available.
Okay, because you have to fund the full amount, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And there's also another vehicle, financing vehicle available for not only bond anticipation notes, but tax anticipation notes. You're a member of a joint insurance fund that's part of the, I'll call it the PERMA family of joint insurance funds. And they developed what they called the JCMI, the Joint Cash Management Investment Program. And what they've started doing earlier this year is purchasing bond anticipation notes and bonds from their own members. They're not going outside of their member municipalities at this point. So they're a bidder on the debt of the town, which is a nice vehicle to have. And they've saved about, I want to say, roughly $130,000 is the estimate that they've saved for their member towns by being the low bidder on their debt. And then the other possible play is CARBs, or coronavirus bonds. It's not, hasn't passed the Senate yet. There's been a lot of interest in municipalities across the state as a possible tool. To me, it looks like the best possible tool at this point, should a town need it because of loss of revenue as a result of this pandemic. What's nice about it also is it would be a 2-year issue of notes that could then be permanently financed. So it doesn't just affect or allows us to take into account what's occurring in 2020. It also allows us to take into account what we at this point are expecting to occur in 2021 with the revenues still not being where we would need them to be. So those are some of the things that we've been talking about and working to make come to fruition.
And but the one thing that we also, the other vehicle that we have for funding is interfund transfers.
That's correct.
So,
We would take care of those before we would issue TANs.
Right.
That's a good point.
Bud or Judy, is the sewer collection rate a leading indicator for third quarter collection, or are they typically unrelated?
I've never seen a correlation between them. Normally taxes are paid by most people through a mortgage. So then, we tend to see the money coming that way.
Right.
Government is generally, from what we've seen in most economic downturns, a trailing indicator. Things usually affect government last. I don't see it happening here. It seems like government is being affected immediately, like businesses. So this is an unusual circumstance.
Got it.
And as far as the sewer collection rate, the sewer budget is significantly less, than the property taxes. And we're only talking about 250 customers. This is not the hills. This is just in the municipal portion of the town for sewer.
Right.
And the town's collection rate has historically been excellent, been north of 98%.
Right. The sewer collection rate is normally, like Bud said, about 98.5%.
So do we have any thoughts about why it might be lagging right now?
Well, their grace period is to the 10th.
Right.
So, we're not at the end yet.
Right. So keep a watchful eye on it, but don't panic.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
and third quarter is going to be tough. Right.
Yes.
This is all obviously anticipatory, but there's been folks without jobs or jobs without salaries. So, and it's going to affect, frankly, I'll say it, I think it's going to affect all reaches of the township, all neighborhoods. But is there any of the pending legislation, are there any of those bills that you are more supportive of than others as far as usefulness for municipalities such as us? I mean, we don't have, our situation is different than a lot of other towns. I'm just curious if you think that there's something that's pending now before the legislature that may be more opportune for us than others.
I think the best vehicle that I've seen is the coronavirus bonds. I'm not sure that they're really going to benefit Bedminster. I don't know that you guys will need to go in that direction. But it's nice to have it there if we determine that it would benefit the town.
And it's certainly something that Matt Munch, once again, Mayor Munch from Bridgewater, he's been pushing this, and it would allow municipalities to bond for all expenses. So this would include operating expenses for municipalities.
What's nice is it affects revenue loss also.
Right.
And it gives you that 2-year window so you can really see where you're at the end of that 2-year period after the emergency formally ends. So you can make that decision at that point whether you need to go to permanent financing in the way of bonds, or if you're in good shape, you've gotten reimbursements from the federal government and the state, and you don't need to go to permanent financing, or the amount that you're looking at isn't a large amount and you can pay it off through notes over the next year or two after that. So it gives you a lot of flexibility.
But are you getting a sense of whether the towns where commercial or industrial is a significant driver for ratables, whether those municipalities are facing a different concern, such as ours, where, frankly, our ratables are being driven by residential?
Yes, very much so. And there's a number of towns that have other revenue sources than taxes, like parking and other things that are more determined on use than a town like Bedminster. So
Right.
They're a little bit more at risk.
Yeah, so a lot of those towns that survive on, well, I don't want to say survive, but rely on non-tax revenues, those revenues are severely depleted.
Right.
Yeah. Now, we anticipated approximately $120,000 less in revenues, and it's just an estimate, a best guess. And then because we weren't getting that additional $120,000 in revenues, we also cut $120,000 of our appropriations too.
Right. So it sort of comes back to Judy's reference that at a 0.64% increase in spending, and that's half of where we were
When we started.
late February. But it's not just the spending that we've cut, because we've made the adjustments for the anticipated reduced revenue. And
Right.
that includes the non-tax revenue as well. So it's not just, hey, we took 1.2 or 1.3 and dropped it to 0.64, as the 5 Township Committee and Judy and Robin and everyone who was with us for that 5-hour Saturday session where we redid the budget. It just wasn't cutting. It was looking at revenues, tax revenues, non-tax revenues, and seeing where spending should be prioritized and where we frankly had to make those decisions. So any other questions for Bud? Nothing?
Okay.
Thank you, Bud.
Thank you, Bud.
Right.
Okay, discussion on introduced ordinances. We have none. Introduction of ordinances. We have none. Public hearing of ordinances. We have none. Consent agenda. We have nothing on the consent agenda. Resolutions. We have 4 resolutions on for tonight. Resolution 2020-055. Let me make sure I find that one.
So, Bud, correct me if I'm wrong, the mayor should actually read that first section of the resolution, A through E. Right. So Mayor, on resolution 2020-055, which is the adoption of the budget, you have to actually read that whole first section.
Section 2, upon adoption for year 2020, parens, only to be included in the budget as finally adopted, close parens, resolution, be resolved by the governing body of the Township of Bedminster, County of Somerset, that the budget herein before set forth is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purposes stated of the sums therein set forth as appropriations and authorization of the amount of A, $6,773,863.24, which is item 2 below, for municipal purposes. And let's see, we skip
Yeah, skip B and C, just D.
A and D.
That's it.
Okay, so then D, $367,744.40 for open space, recreation, farmland, and historic preservation trust fund levy. And then E is $823,239.02 as the minimum library tax. And then it requires a vote.
Correct.
So our, let's see, not to be raised by taxation for municipal purposes, the $6,773,863. Library levy. We've got the general revenues, surplus anticipated, miscellaneous revenues anticipated, receipts from delinquent taxes. So total revenues of $11,325,668.40. I think everyone's been through this before multiple times. Any further comments before we take the vote? No?
No questions?
Mm.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve? Let's just make sure we got this right. Resolution 2020-055, the adoption of the 2020 budget.
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
Judy, do we
I
have the
got
public hearing?
Gina motion, who's second?
I'm second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Boraski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs.
Bud, what was your question?
Have we had the public hearing on the budget?
Well, we should have opened it up to the public. I'm sorry.
After the mayor read the resolution.
Right. So members of the public still on the call would be Charlie Z from the Burnsville News. Any questions, Charlie? No questions from Charlie.
No questions immediately. We'll need to get the numbers eventually, though. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we will post, everything will be posted on our website. Thank you, Charlie.
Fabulous. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Aye.
Okay, so with that, public hearing, aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Bud, for keeping us straight.
Sure, congratulations. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
too.
Bud.
Thank you.
Next resolution, Resolution 2020-056. This is an award authorizing contracts for maintenance and repair materials for the period of June 1, 2020 through May 31st, 2022. Ms. Sullivan, what is this?
So this would normally be Mr. Mance explaining to you, every 2 years, we put out a bid package. Sarah Hausman, our acting qualified purchasing agent, put together the bids this year. We put them out in the newspaper. We got several responses. We did our bid opening here back on the 28th. And it's mostly for stone, road stone, calcium chloride for dust control, hot mix for blacktop, cold patch for during the winter, all the different road materials that John Mance needs. We're part of a Somerset County co-op that we can get certain supplies from them, but we also do our own bid as well, just so that we have many options for road materials. So
These are for potential contractors outside of the contract, the county contract.
correct. This is our own bid so we have several options for getting supplies.
Okay. And just curious, how does this usually compare to the county contract?
Actually, a lot of it depends on the price of oil as far as with the product for putting down pavement and whatever. Stone, we do 2 different bids. We do a bid for actually going to pick up the stone at the quarry or for having the stone delivered. For having it delivered or for going to pick it up, we actually have to calculate then the mileage to the various locations because that's a factor in our cost as well. So, so the closer the quarry, the better the price. So.
And just curious about this is a 2-year contract?
Yes, we normally do a 2-year contract for this.
Okay. No more questions for me. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, may we motion to approve Resolution 2020-056?
So moved.
Second. Again, roll call vote for this. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mr. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Resolution 2020-057. This resolution authorizes the hiring of a part-time seasonal recreational operations intern. And this recreational operations intern is Taylor DiMartino.
Robin, you want to unmute? You want to explain what we're doing? Are you still with us? She's trying to unmute. Let me see if I can do it. No, you weren't on the phone.
Wake up, Robin.
Yeah, she doesn't have a speaker.
Okay.
Yeah, she's going to come in here.
Okay, sorry.
So they can't see anyway, but they can hear you. They can hear you.
Taylor DiMartino actually worked for us last summer. She was invaluable, helping us with all the preparations for the summer and helping manage a lot of the constant changes that happen all summer long. Now that we're having some form of summer camps, I wanted to get Taylor on board as soon as possible. She's ready, willing, and able to get back here. And I'd love to have her start this week.
She's an awesome employee.
Yeah, help us with all the preparations. And she knows our software like the back of her hand. She's adapted very quickly. She's great.
Yeah, let me just jump in. I have the privilege of being Taylor's next door neighbor. She's extraordinarily responsible. When she was far younger than we knew it at the time, but we left her with our kids and had no problem with her. But she's terrific, and I would certainly love to see her back again.
Great. That's awesome.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no further questions or comments, can we have a motion to approve Resolution 2020?
Thank you.
Thanks.
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, this is also a roll call vote because we're hiring someone. This would be Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Doug, you can open the window behind you and tell Taylor she's hired.
Okay.
Done.
Resolution 2020-058, authorizing the appointment of an electric subcode official. I guess this should say acting electric.
It's an acting subcode official. So our current electric subcode official, Glenn Hartzler, has been with us as our electric subcode official since 2017. He was a substitute inspector before that since 2013. Last month, he announced his retirement, and actually this Thursday will be his last day with us. About a month ago, we posted some advertisements on through the construction membership websites, and we also did it here on our own website. We got, I think we got 3 applicants that Ken Rogers, our official, did do interviews, the applicants, and this gentleman, Mr. Vandenberg, is actually currently code official over in Reddington Township. So we called Reddington, we got great reviews, and we will make him acting for 2 months, and he would be appointed full-time after that if his probation is good.
Okay, any questions or comments?
Nope.
Nope.
And we have a motion to approve resolution 2020-058.
So moved.
Second.
One last roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Mareski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. May we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
Yeah, please stop by, sign the bill list and your purchase orders if you haven't seen them.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
And roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Mareski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Discussion items. So is there anything the Township Committee wants to put up for discussion? No, let's move on. New business. Any items of new business? All right.
Not
Old
here.
business. We already covered COVID, short-term rentals, engine braking, Pluckman Park. Based upon everyone's priorities, I'm going to imagine there's been no new developments on that. So let's quickly hit JCP&L. Mr. Hickey?
JCP&L, been in touch with our rep, Ms. Bianchi. We are going to have a meeting with the Hills Working Group once the pandemic restrictions are lifted.
Okay.
No more update on that. Do you want me to hit New Jersey American Water?
Go right into it.
So settlement discussions will begin tomorrow. As I mentioned, New Jersey American Water has been touting a 27% rate of return to their shareholders, which is 7% above the industry average. Excuse me, 7 points above the industry average. So the industry does about 20% rate of return. They're doing 27%. So the numbers indicate they've been overcharging for years, and they should not be asking for any increase. And that will be our position going into the discussions beginning tomorrow. We continue to reach out to the neighboring towns to see if they want to join in the fight and help defray some of the expense. In addition to Far Hill, Peacock, Gladstone, and Burnsville, Raritan recently joined our ranks. I just want to give a shout out. Proud of scrappy little Bedminster for leading this fight. And thank you, Mayor, for your insights and support on this one. So I think we're doing a great job for our residents.
Didn't we hear a rumor today about Bridgewater again?
We've heard, yes, they may be voting today or tomorrow.
Okay.
So
I got a lot of rumors.
a lot of rumors, waiting for confirmation.
Hillsborough is another rumor.
Hillsborough's a rumor, Branchburg's a rumor, Somerville's a rumor. We'll see.
Again, the little scrappy dog is leading the fight. So we can make a decision, obviously, where others can't sometimes.
Thank you, Committeeman Hickey, on that. So Township Committee comments. We will start with Committee Woman Moreski.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. A quick thank you to John Coates and Dawn March of the Environmental Committee and Robin Ray of Town Hall for organizing and getting the word out about the distribution of the trees. We hope everyone comes out to the farmer's market and takes one home. Mayor, somebody mentioned about the library. You mentioned about the library. It was curbside pickup and now it's not. We actually got to take advantage of the curbside pickup and Marie is lovely. So I just want to give a shout out to them that they are still creating great learning experiences for us. Check out their website for a selection of virtual events such as yoga, knitting, short story time, and meditation. And I did get a disappointing email this morning that the Mars Essex horse trials have been canceled for this year. They did consider various ways on how to proceed with all the restrictions that they have by the state and the U.S. Equestrian Federation, but none of them worked out. As everybody knows, it's a big community event hosting 300 competitors, 182 volunteers, and nearly 5,000 spectators. While they were anxious to help out their beneficiary, which is the Greater Newark Life Camp, the safety and well-being of all concerned was a top priority. So we're looking forward to them being back in 2021. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Renee. Renee, just real quick. So how is Lord Sterling working these days? Are they busy, not busy with horses?
To tell you the truth, I have no idea because I haven't volunteered with them in a little while, but since that's recreation, they're probably not working. My little tiny program is all therapeutic riding, so we're still functioning, but we have one rider at a time.
And did you see any drop off of the therapeutic riding?
We did have a handful of riders not come back for this past session. Those are the riders though that need sidewalkers, which is the volunteers who stay to the sides of the riders and actually have to touch them. So those riders are not participating. Our independent riders are there though, and we can socially distance with a rider who doesn't need help from us. But I imagine that Lord Sterling isn't.
Well, recreational horseback riding is allowed now. I think that was last week.
So, okay, so I'm sure they'll start up soon. I can get you more information and let everybody know.
Especially with regard to all the stables in Bedminster. So thank you for that, for those comments. Committeeman Stevenson.
I have no comments. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we're 2 hours into it, but I forgot to give an update on the food pantry, so if I can spend a minute on that. We're at week 8 of our food pantry. We're averaging 62 pickups per week. We've served over 500 families in need. I think the exact count is 519 as of Friday at noon. So it's been an amazing response. Just want to give a couple call outs, as I always do. Our local scout troops visited us last week. They brought a ton of food and other items. So I want to recognize Scout Pack 1749 and Girl Scout Troop 63421. They are both awesome. They were excited. They brought a lot of stuff. I want to thank them for their just generous, very generous contributions. We got some great pictures of them as well, so very nice. Also want to give a special call out to Noemi Das. She's one of our local residents. Week in and week out, she makes sure that Allspeed delivers fresh fruit and produce. Thursday mornings, it shows up boxes and boxes. And I have to tell you that the residents who pick up on Friday, one of the things they remark on is, hey, I haven't had fresh food for weeks now. You know, because we're giving out non-perishable, but you know, they don't have perishable. So, you know, we take that for granted. It's very much appreciated. So I want to thank Noemi for that. That's really special. As always, I want to give a special call out to my colleagues here on the TC, as well as the township employees. Obviously, Robin is my partner in this endeavor, but also Elena Martin, Janine DeLeon, Judy Sullivan, who literally and figuratively are always ready to do the heavy lifting that's required to do the pantry work. So thank you all. And I think our biggest thanks goes out to Bedminster residents. They come day after day, week after week, and they generously pitch in. And you know, I'm embarrassed sometimes. They thank me when they're dropping off. I'm like, no. Thank you. I mean, it's all about us recognizing the generosity that they have shown since this thing started, and just a huge shout out to them. So that's all I want to say, Mayor, and thank you.
Great, thank you. And that's truly remarkable, and a special thank you to Noemi and the Doss family, because you're absolutely right. So food pantries specifically call for non-perishables, and so for folks in need, they're not getting the fresh vegetables, the fresh fruit, and the fact that Noemi has contracted with Allsteeds to make that delivery straight from the farm.
Yep, it's great. It's awesome.
This is great, great. So thank you for that. And for the, and just a reminder, for the farmer's market, we will be taking donations for the food pantry at the farmer's market. So if folks show up, I would recommend it not being stuff from the farmer's market, which is not necessarily cost conscious, but donations, once again, will be accepted. We'll have a table set up by the Bedminster Township tent, and then we will take it from there, either in my truck or Robin's truck, or Colin will carry it can by can back to Town Hall, and we'll be set up. So, just as I started with the meeting with a reference to the George Floyd issue, and we're certainly aware of protests going on across the country. I am hopeful that we will be immune to the type of violence that we have seen elsewhere. Once again, I've had the discussions with the chief on that issue, and there may be certain strains that are put on our force, but we will be working with the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office and the state police if the need arises. With that, we do have an executive session. So, executive session.
We just lost your audio, Mayor.
You lost my audio?
Yep.
You cut out, Mayor, but one thing, we didn't hear from Ms. Fernandez.
Oh my God, really? I'm
This is
sorry.
actually my favorite part of the meeting. Okay.
Thank you, Colin.
That's okay. I just wanted to comment, my committee woman comment. The Field of Honor looks beautiful. It's always a beautiful display. I think everyone in town really appreciates driving by and appreciates the display. So I just wanted to comment that. I look forward to shopping and visiting sidewalk sales and dining outdoors. So I am eager to see that happen, and I'm happy that we approved all the special permits so that businesses can begin that process. And I just hope to see people in general, just hope to see people, but especially at the blood drive Thursday and Friday, and in memory of our Sergeant Patterson, and then also again on Saturday at the farmer's market. So that's all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Gina, and we will see you there, both at the blood drive and at the farmer's market. Now, need a motion to adjourn. And we're going to see you all back in exec.
Right, we're gonna go to executive. I need a motion to go into exec.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Thank you. Now, don't forget, you go to the other link.
Thank you.
See you in a minute.
Bye.